Hey, you guys. Just wanted to hop on real fast. Just wanted to give you like a part 2 to ejectment versus eviction. Part 2. Two. So, I only want to start with my good news, but let me just do a recap of the eviction versus ejectment. The ejectment is for tenants, and I'm in Philadelphia, so that's anybody in the Commonwealth or because one state can follow the other state if it's Commonwealth. So if a law applies in Virginia that's not here, you can get it to apply from Virginia to here, right? Because it's a Commonwealth state. So know where you live at and what the laws are where you're at. Now in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, let's be clear, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, ejectment is for people who do not have a lease, and it may have been a verbal lease. An ejectment gets those people out of the property. An eviction is for tenants that have paid rent, maybe stopped paying rent, or whatever the situation is going on. The landlord is not doing something, so the tenant is withholding the money. Whatever, I don't know. However, an eviction is for someone that has a lease, whereas an ejectment, that's what you file for. An ejectment is for a person that does not have a lease verbal. They could be squatters. They could just had a verbal lease and no longer is valid. And you want them out of the property, right? You have to go through a process. You go through a hearing process. You have to, first you got to file the paperwork. You got to serve them. Then you got to wait another 10 days if they don't respond. Then you got to like 10 or 11 days and you got to reserve them again, whether through mail. Then they get that date. They didn't respond. Then you can get a writ of possession. However, you can't get that if they respond. If they respond, that's kind of fast, but if they respond, then you have to wait for this specific like mediation, right? You get a mediation hearing, y'all come up with an agreement. If that follows through or don't follow through, then they'll get an additional hearing date, which will actually give you the order, right? So that's the process of it. For me, because I always feel like my process sometimes just always differs from what normal processes, because I have a big God that just, he loves me. Because he loves me, he just, I say certain things, it just literally blows my mind because I'm very persistent. You can ask any of my family. You can ask my friends. You can ask people that have known me for the last umpteen years. I'm very persistent. And so, but I'm very positive. So every time something happens, I'll be like, well, you know what? It's going to work out for my good. The best thing is always around the corner. So I've always had that approach. But I've also had the approach of, I'm going to get my yes. And so, glory to God, he works out with me, right? He says, you said you're going to get your yes? So I agree. Yes, you're going to get your yes. And so that's just my little take on it, that I have a big God, and he does big things for me. And he loves me. And because he loves me, he does big things for me. And then I just give him all the glory because he's super great. And that's just my take on it. But so I wanted to, give that spill on ejection versus eviction. Now, I told you guys, if you watched the other video that I did, I told you guys that I had to go through the process of an ejectment, right? Because these people were not paying for a while and different things like that. So I told somebody I work with kind of what happened. He's a different lawyer. He was a totally different lawyer. He's not even working with my case. He was like, "Oh my gosh, that happened for you? You lucked up." And I was like, "No, it was God. Yeah, luck didn't have nothing to do with this, right? It was God. He told me to pursue. I pursued. He said, your land gonna rest from war. It rested, and I'm just so grateful. So pretty much, let me give you the steps on how I advance through without having to go through the first step of what I told you is supposed to happen. That mediation, that hearing, you got to wait. So they told me initially the person responds, then they give them like 3 months or whatever, 3 to 4 months to a hearing before you get a hearing date. Then you get an additional couple months before they give you an actual date with the judge, which is the long process. So it's like a 6-month process all in all. And in 6 months, you would have hopefully came up to some agreement by this time. But sometimes you don't, because people are waiting for, like, you gonna give me a court order. And so you gotta wait that 6 months. So, and that was the least that they were saying, that, hey, it's a 6-month waiting process. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not waiting 6 months. I'm not waiting 6 months. Yeah, we're not gonna do that. I'm not doing that. And so this piece right here just keeps going on. So lo and behold, my process went: file an ejectment. The person did respond, right? Filed an ejectment. They responded. I filed a motion. File a motion to advance. And you put whatever you want. Like if it's an emergency motion, I didn't know what I was doing. I'm just being honest. I put motion to advance, writ of possession, 14th Amendment, due process. I was loading it in there. Like, give me a date. I think I put some other stuff in there, okay? The lady was kind enough to say, no, this is an injunctive relief. We need you filed all this stuff, but we're going to look at it as an injunctive relief. So that was actually what I probably should have filed, was an injunctive relief, because there were some emergency situations going on. So I did a motion. I filed a motion. And then based off that emergency situation that was going on, now you have to literally have an emergency. They have to verify, they have to look and see, what is it really an emergency. After that emergency situation that happened, I had a court hearing. I didn't have a mediation. I had a court hearing, and I had to show evidence. With the evidence that I showed, I had to get, after that evidence that I showed, I got a court order from the actual judge that we seen. Now, with that court order, there was a decree. That decree was for them to vacate, right? They needed to be out by a certain date. Now, what I need to do is I have to wait for that date. And when that date comes, then I will be able to go with the police or the sheriffs or any other law enforcement and gain actual possession, which I also got the writ of possession, all in this one order. Because they was like, well, you can't get that until the end and blah, 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 blah. When I read this order today, y'all, glory to God, let me just tell y'all, when I read that order today, fix this. When I read that order today, hands up to God, it said everything. It said, oh, you filed this. We looked at it as this. Your order is granted, and you can go take the police and sheriffs after. And I thought they gave me one day. They put another date on there. They said by this date, and you need to go get your writ of possession, because you can go and effectively on the date that we said, you can go and gain possession of your property. What? What? I was running around my house like, God, you are so good. You are so good. You are so good. You are so good. That's what I was doing around the house. Here come my son. But that was me today. They running up. No, I'm doing my video. Huh? Can you give me a second? I'm almost done. You're going to sleep. Yeah, but she's doing her video. That's what happened, and it was so warming to me, and I wanted to make sure that I did a part 2 to kind of let y'all know what the steps are, the actual steps, which is file the ejectment, file the motion, have a court hearing. This is what I did: had a court hearing, showed evidence, got the court order, and now I need to wait so that I can serve it on the date And then you always, always, always give God praise over and over again. Woo! So that's it. I wanted to tell y'all that. Hop on real quick. Love y'all. Have a good night. Peace.